So there's a meme from the movie Ice Age, which is a movie I have not yet seen. I know, whatever.
I believe there's multiple Ice Ages.
I'm talking about the first, I think it's the first one. I don't know. It's from the Ice Age franchise.
Okay.
Where there's this weasel or maybe a ferret. Anyway, a long rodent-looking thing is telling a dramatic story to other couple of smaller rodents. The setup isn't that important. But he gets to a really suspenseful scene, and one of the other rodents asks, "Were you killed?" And then the weaselly-looking thing goes, "Sadly, yes. But I lived." So, yeah, that's kind of secret history in a nutshell.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. So hello and welcome to Cosmere Casual, your casual reader's guide for the Cosmere curious. I'm your co-host, the eternal and eternally sick Nick Gorman.
And I'm your co-host, AJ Gorman.
I'll try to keep it light. If I turn raspy or suddenly start coughing, it's probably not. It's because I'm a plague disease vector, plague victim. I don't know. It's because I'm me.
Noted.
There's more.
You think we're at 6 feet apart?
No. So today we're doing a post-read episode for Mistborn Secret History, and I don't know, we've been talking about this for a little while now, and I feel like it's hard to separate this novella from the connections throughout the Cosmere.
Yes, I agree, but I think I've managed to extract some things to talk about that aren't directly related to the Cosmere.
Okay, so you think this will be just a post-read episode? We're not going to get into the Cosmere connections?
Yes.
Okay, we'll need to do another one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I agree. It is hard to separate it.
This is, I think, yeah.
I can definitely see some people who are not into the greater Cosmere, reading Brandon's books, but this book in particular it's devoted to the Cosmere.
It is. And I feel like
So for those who are not into the greater Cosmere, this is really not meant for you.
I mean, it is and it isn't. Like, it has a toddler. Yeah, no, but this book like has a role fitting in with just Mistborn, right?
It does, yep.
But in my mind, it works best as like a teaser for The Lost Metal, as a teaser for
Era
Rhythm
2,
of War,
yeah.
And The Lost Metal being specifically the last book in Era 2.
Yeah.
And
I just can never
Man.
remember the names of
Gotcha.
any of the individual Mistborn books.
Yeah, no,
It doesn't matter what era.
Yeah, to me, it's just like it's a teaser for like, hey, this is the kind of interconnections, the interwovenness that you're gonna experience, and is gonna be front and center in the future books.
Yes, but kind of taking a step back from the Cosmere, since we're trying to leave some of that out. I'm almost still mad that Kelsier's alive.
Yeah, I mean,
I wanted after we came of age when Game of Thrones was well a little. We were in college,
yeah,
post college when Game of Thrones was big, and it was like the thing in fantasy for like authors to like actually kill off their main characters and like mean it.
Yeah,
like to actually put these characters in danger.
It was so shocking in Game of Thrones, especially like in the HBO show, like that was it the penultimate episode of season 1, where it's just like, oh fuck.
Yeah, the main narrator of the story is
she's dead. That was unexpected. Yeah.
So like I do enjoy the commitment to kill off characters, and particularly narrators or the point of view characters. So I am almost still upset that Kelsier is back, because he was like the first major character that Brendan killed off.
Well, I mean, and especially because I know this was Mistborn was my first Cosmere book. Was it yours too?
I cannot remember.
But like, Kelsier was really like the first character I latched onto, right? Because especially in the Final Empire, he's set up to be, like it's like a false protagonist kind of situation where you look at him as the leader because everybody else looks at him like he's the leader.
on the rereads, you're just like, this dude, oh my god, this dude.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it's and I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it, right? Because like I see your point and I agree with your point, but there's another part of me that is also like, well, we do like when people, especially when really popular characters come back, we like seeing more of them.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the same problem that plagues comic books, which we know Brando like loves the MCU and loves comic books. It's
He
like,
does.
okay,
He likes Marvel?
I think so. I mean, he loves the MCU. If he talks all about it on Intentionally Blank all the time. I thought it's been a while since I listened to that one.
Okay.
But yeah, no, but especially after in DC Comics, after they killed Superman and brought him back, that was the death of death in comic books, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, ever since the death of Superman, which was this comic book run, I believe it was just titled The Death of Superman. So everybody kind of knew what was going on, but like after that, and then they brought him back afterwards, it was a big deal in the DC Comics thing. But then like after that, comic book characters, Marvel, DC, independent ones, they just kept coming back. And that was sort of the death of death in comic books in particular, but it spread across other nerd fandoms. Yeah, nerd media too.
I mean,
and like soap operas and things like that too, right? I
mean, Brandon definitely pulled it off in a way that made me feel comfortable. Like, it's not like he brought him back to life.
Right. Well, especially that's a Cosmere Connections topic that I want to dig into because I have opinions,
and we still don't fully know the full story either.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I did kind of want to comment on that.
Yeah. God, now I'm just thinking about growing up, and we had like my dad had some. We didn't have too many comic books, but like we had my dad had a collection of the Death of Superman run. So I'm
sure he still has them.
Yeah, probably, unless my mom tossed them.
Anyways, the next thing I want to talk about is kind of how Secret History overlaps with Era 1.
Okay.
Because it does overlap plus a little extra.
Yeah.
So Brandon, there are several parts to Secret History. So part 1 aligns with events, the ending of Final Empire. I'm like,
do you want me to just chime in with the names of the books?
Yeah, I can't because I can't remember them.
Yeah. I can do that.
So we get to see, I don't know, a couple pages of, Kelsier's thoughts as he's staring down the Lord Ruler and then arriving in the afterlife.
You're the one who said we could pull apart the Cosmere aspects.
Okay, we can call it the cognitive realm. We can call it the cognitive realm. Okay. So Kelsier arriving in the cognitive realm, speaking with preservation slash Liras.
They don't use his name.
They don't?
I looked. At least I don't think they do.
Oh. Anyways, his name's Liras. It's not really a spoiler.
Opinions vary.
Literally spoils absolutely nothing knowing his name.
That's fair.
So that's part 1. And then also killing the death of the Lord Ruler.
Yeah.
Because that also happened in Final Empire. Part 2 covers, of course, the second book.
Well, and the big thing in Secret History that happens is that
we can we can talk about more detail before we move on.
Kelsier makes it to the Well of Ascension and is preserved by Liras by preservation.
Yes.
Anyway.
Because he was supposed to be going into the beyond.
Well, he was starting to fade. Right?
So there were a couple things going on with Kelsier's death. So the really big thing to note is that he was highly invested. He was
burning lots of metals.
He was burning a lot of metals.
Kind of makes you
wonder. And
specifically
the 11th metal, so that he was seeing kind of into the past.
Oh. I didn't think about which metals he was burning in particular, because yes, he was burning maladium, but I guess he was also burning, I thought he was burning lots of pewter, and I thought he was burning multiple metals, right? Because he was coming out of the fight with the Inquisitor and facing down the Lord Ruler.
Well, at any rate, him burning lots of metal at the moment of his death did allow him to hang on a little bit longer in the cognitive realm than most people that we see. But that only gained him like a couple extra minutes, though. The reason why he was able to stick around longer is because he made it to the Well of Ascension. And
was it because he made it to the Well of Ascension, or was it because Liras preserved him and helped him get to the Well of Ascension?
Both. It wasn't until Kelsier got to the well that he was able to convince preservation, but preservation had to connect him to the well for him to stick around.
Yeah, because I
so layers upon layers.
Yes.
Naturally, of course.
There's
Everything
always another secret.
Yeah. God damn it.
It was your idea to add video to this. Now I'm looking at myself just winking.
I purposely minimized your screen.
I know, it's because I'm making eye contact with the screen and you're like looking over and I'm just like, well, hold on now. If we're trying to add, I guess, listener, we didn't talk about this. We're experimenting with adding video.
In hopes of being able to create GIFs or something. I don't know. I will say that the one thing that I loved in part 1 was, number 1, Kelsier punching Lyras. Very Kelsier thing to do, just punch a god.
Well, I was about to say, it's because that's not the last time he punches gods.
No, he punches.
It's like a thing.
He does it twice. And then, which is funny because I'm just never mind it.
Twice? Multiple times. Does many times. He keeps trying to punch Ruin.
Oh, that's true. Yes, he successfully punches twice. Anyways,
at least twice.
I love the punching. And I also love the conversation with Lord Ruler. Specifically, I love how short it is and how flippant Rashek is. He's like, you're a bug. Yeah. I'm not even sticking around for this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And I thought that was perfect.
Well, and I thought the Lord Ruler, treating preservation the way he did was also very, I thought it was very similar.
Yeah. It was even more dismissive.
Yeah.
Of preservation than of Kelsier.
Yeah, which...
I mean, but preservation wasn't all there, so...
Right, but I think it tells you a lot about Rashek's personality. Like, it's more about Rashek than about Kelsier, right? Or
right.
Preservation. Because, again, whenever Kelsier starts to be dismissive of preservation, which happens on multiple occasions, preservation looks deeply into his eyes, and then Kelsier...
sees into infinity.
Yeah. I mean, sees into infinity and beyond. I mean, but yeah, no, it gives him a sense of perspective, which is not healthy for a person's ego, as Kelsier says, roughly.
I think he survived. I think Kelsier's ego survived.
Yeah.
So anyways.
There's a scene very similar to that in one of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. I forget which one. But yeah, anyway, never mind.
Maybe we should do that as another
another detour out of the Cosmere.
Refocusing.
But
Kelsier, like, aside from Kelsier dying and kicking off kind of his pre-planned stuff, his plan B, Kelsier didn't really help anything with the events of Final Empire after his death. He was just kind of hanging around.
Oh, right. Gotcha. He didn't actively intervene, right? No. He had set plans in motion, then died.
Which is in contrast to part 2, where Kelsier did interact with the physical realm a little bit via preservation.
Yeah, he disemboweled Ellen.
He moved preservation's hand, which was holding a knife, to disembowel. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still put that on Kelsier. I mean, his heart was in the right place,
it's just funny
even if the bowels were not.
But it's just funny to think, like, reading, like, without kind of this background knowledge, like what assumptions that you make of events, and then you know, it just goes to show that you never know what's going on with, like, other people, or that you can never make assumptions, because there could be something totally different happening on the other side that you just have no idea about. Because, I mean, to our eye, I mean, we could see, well, from Vin's perspective, we could see the ghost, we could see preservation, we could see the preservation stabbing Eland, but we couldn't see Kelsier was the one actually moving preservation's hand. So there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, part 2, Kelsier was mostly just hanging out in the well, trying not to go insane, / was already insane and trying not to go further insane.
I don't know. There was a pretty important scene.
I was gonna save that for the Cosmere, because the Drifter is all Cosmere.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it happened. If we're in this episode, they read it.
Yes.
You know, the Drifter comes.
But really, that's all we can say.
Kicks Kelsier's ass.
Yes.
Takes a bead that we know was Lerasium.
That will give him almatic powers if he swallows it. But
we don't
see him swallow it.
Yeah.
But we can't really comment more on that without getting into the Cosmere. So let's move on. Part 3. Part 3 covers part 3 and beyond covers Hero of Ages. So if you remember correctly, between whatever book 2 was,
Well of Ascension.
Well
Shit,
of
I was supposed to be chiming in with those, and I wasn't. Ugh.
So between the end of Well of Ascension and the beginning of Hero of Ages, there's a 3-year gap.
3 years?
I think so.
I thought it was just 1 year.
There's a gap.
Yeah.
There's a gap. I swear it was 3. Maybe not.
I thought it was 1. I thought it was 3 years total between the start of Final Empire and the end of Hero of Ages.
That could be. Anyways, there's a gap. So there's a lot of there was a lot of time for Brandon to fill, and a lot of it he just kind of wastes with like Kelsier ran.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Well, or he twiddles his thumb in the Well of Ascension, tries to starts going insane.
Which is not like the
gazes into the abyss until the abyss gazes back into him. Very Nietzschean.
Yeah, it's not like the most interesting thing to read. So like he didn't dwell on it too much, but like there's a lot of just like, and Kelsier ran and a lot of time passed.
Well, yeah, it was like it was a montage.
Yeah.
Right. But I also like how that time skip there also gives time for the events going on in the cognitive realm, and then Kelsier can still come back for the events of Hero of Ages. Right.
Yeah. So kind of ways that Kelsier interacted with the events of Hero of Ages. Kelsier actually was trying to talk to the man who started the fight with Demo, whatever. So if you remember, it was a pretty big scene when Demix got, punched in the face, and then that kind of caused him to take him and all of the other Mistfallen
and send them
leave
back
the
to,
army.
Send them to not Luthadel. Almost called it the wrong city name. I was like, wait, no.
So he kind of was the catalyst for that. It ended up kind of being a good thing, but also
it just wasn't, it wasn't in this intention.
It wasn't.
Yeah. Well, and I think in the Cosmere Connections episode for Hero of Ages, I misidentified because I thought I had said that Kelsier was the Mist Spirit running across the rooftops and sparring with Vin.
He was for a short time.
No, but the one who moved like a Mistborn was Ruin, right? And Kelsier observes it.
Oh. Yeah, well, it's very confusing. I actually put in my notes, it's very confusing to figure out which is Kelsier and which is the...
Which, like, on a meta level, oh man, Spook was confused about who was Kelsier and who was Ruin. And so are we. I'm just like Spook. You're not laughing at my jokes. Listener, I got such a glare. If looks could kill.
Anyways. Vin, we did see some circumstantial evidence that Vin could be influenced by Kelsier. So, if you remember, Kelsier had noticed that Vin was going to go try to meet with the Drifter.
No, she was going to meet with Hoyd, who he recognized as the Drifter.
Semantics, dear. Semantics. So Kelsier was yelling at her to, like, don't meet with him, like, he's bad news. And Vin actually kind of, quote unquote, listens. Like we do see her doing this in Hero of Ages, and she kind of...
She gets a bad vibe.
She gets a bad feeling. She trusts her gut and says, I'm just not going to go. And we don't know if that is it because of the connection, capital C connection between Kelsier and Vin? Is it because of Kelsier's connection to Ruin? And then that Vin has the spike in her that he can kind of talk to her, even if she's not insane or a broken spirit web.
Well, they all have.
It was because Kelsier was trying to touch her in the cognitive realm. I don't. Maybe it's a coincidence, but I think Brandon was trying to push us towards it's not a coincidence.
I thought the greater implication there was that they did have a connection.
Yeah.
And because that comes back up again later with Spook. Although that is also true where he's got cracks in his spirit web. And Kelsier even directly says that, where, hey, you almost died. It's not me talking to you, though, because you opened your spirit web right up.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it that way. I just thought it was the connection-y bit. But
I don't know.
But we do know that the hemalurgic spikes do affect the spirit of the person who receives them, too, right? And that's how Ruin gets in there and messes with the people with the spikes.
Yes.
Go ahead, dear. Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, sorry. The other major way that Kelsier plays a role in Hero of Ages is Kelsier doesn't actually influence the world or speak with Spook until Spook runs into the fire. Because if you read Hero of Ages, like I did this last time, and Kelsier shows up, and I'm like, with Spook, like early on in the book, I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. That's because that was Ruin.
Doesn't, similar to how Vin got I don't have my book in front of me right now. I thought, similar to how Kelsier gave Vin a bad vibe about Hoyd, I thought Kelsier was, was yelling at Spook to, no, that's not me. Take out your spike. Take out the spike that was in him.
He was.
Okay, because I could have sworn.
But I don't think that Brandon was really trying to convince us that was being effective.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
But
still hero.
he did manage to speak to Spook when Spook was on death's door.
Yeah, and came to him in a dream.
And though he told Spook that he wanted to get the message to Vin, Brandon did lead us to believe that Kelsier always intended for Marsh to be the one to get the message.
Yes.
About
3D chess.
Yes.
Not 4D chess, but at least 3D chess.
Which is hard to think about on the first read.
Well, it's relatively easy to think about on your first read of Secret History because, you've already read Hero of Ages, you already know that, Marsh is the one who needed to hear it, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
Another moment that I really enjoyed, which didn't really have an effect on the Hero of Ages storyline, it was just Kelsier finding out about the Koloss, how their Koloss are made, and he was just looking for an obligator to explain it.
Yeah. Koloss is people too.
Yes. We should discuss a little bit about why did we discuss it in another episode about why Ruin's control on Marsh is tenuous when Marsh is in a rage?
Yeah, tell us more.
I think that was mostly it. For some reason, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that when any of the Inquisitors are in a bloodthirst,
a bloodlust,
a bloodlust,
rage.
Yeah, when they're being
Berserker.
Super violent, that's when Ruin loses control.
I thought it had to do. We can talk about it if I need to edit this out, but I thought it had to do with Ruin the intent taking over Ruin the vessel, like Ati. And so when the Inquisitors go into such a bloodlust rage and they're trying to tear things apart, that is so aligned with Ruin's intent that Ati the vessel, the mind behind the shard, loses out compared to Ruin the Shardic intent.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so it's related to that disconnect between the vessel, the mind, and the shard, the intent.
Okay. Well, that was why it was. The scene where Vin is just getting brutalized before she gets the power of preservation is just it's brutal. It's brutal to read, but that's what was needed for Marsh to be able to break free even just a little bit.
Yep. Well, and I something we didn't see in Hero of Ages, but I thought we saw more of in this time was the precursor to that, Marsh brutalizing the Captain Gorodel, the guy with the metal sheet. Yeah. Yeah,
we saw it a couple times.
Yeah.
And Kelsier noticed the fact that Ati was trying to pull Marsh back.
Yes.
Okay. And then the very end is the epilogue.
Yep. And that is after Hero of Ages.
That's the only kind of little bit scrap that we have between the end of Hero of Ages and beginning of Era 2.
So far.
And it's really just a conversation that Spook has with Kelsier.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about our thoughts about that conversation? Or
yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
No, just, yeah, gosh. Compared, all right. So comparing the two conversations between Spook and Kelsier in Secret History, there's the first one over here where Spook is on death's door. Kelsier comes to him in a dream. Hey, you did a great job, kid, and I need you to send out this one message. You're so good. You did such a great job. And it's uplifting, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the second time that Kelsier appears to Spook, it seems Kelsier starts to be menacing, right? The way
It's
he
more-
talks, we're
yeah.
gonna do so much. We're gonna learn so much together. I'm twirling my evil mustache. We're gonna learn so much. Turns out it's called the Cosmere, kid, and I'm gonna be right here to help you. You know, it's like that the last scene in the first episode of Rick and Morty where, you know, you haven't seen it, I don't think. Yeah, Morty is basically lying there broken on the ground, and, you know, Rick, his grandpa and you know, mentor figure, is like, Rick and Morty forever, Rick and Morty 30 seasons, you know, Rick and Morty, and it just it gives that same vibe where it's like Kelsier is going megalomaniacal, right? He is very full of he's full of I have so much power, I can do so much, and I need you to help me.
I think you're overselling it just a little bit.
I see the seed there, right?
I mean, I agree. I kind of, when I read Final Empire, like now, and like Kelsier like unsettles me greatly.
Yeah, I was about to say, it makes some of the things we read in the first one hit the way Brando wanted them to hit.
Yes.
Which was different from how they did in the first read.
But on the whole, I think that Secret History does kind of try to redeem Kelsier through most of it. But then I agree that Epilogue takes a sharp turn.
Yeah. Well, and I
mean, there are definitely some things that are still questionable.
Yeah.
But like on the whole, like we see Kelsier like being very concerned about the people that he left behind and trying to help them out and talking nicely to Spook. And like we do see some redeeming, a lot of redeeming moments.
You know, other people who he thinks he can talk to, he tries to speak nicely to them, right? He tries to be kind.
Yes.
Or at least charismatic, or maybe manipulative.
I mean, we definitely still see manipulative moments and stuff, but I agree that Epilogue felt like a much different tone than we saw in most of Secret History. Which brings me to a point.
Back it up.
Okay.
There are other things that, because we skipped over like a lot of the stuff that was unique to Secret History, right? The fight with the fight with the Drifter was, and the way it played out, I thought was actually like big for character moment for Kelsier, right? Because Kelsier just attacks unprovoked, right?
I'm pretty sure Hoyt has one of those faces that you just want to punch.
Right, but like part of being in a society is you don't just like see people and be like, I don't like the cut of your jib. Pa-cha! Like that's so
Kelsier though.
Exactly.
It's also kind of Hoyt if he could punch people.
All right, spoilers. Although I guess he does mention that in this book, doesn't he? Where he says that, I guess because
that
you're
was
dead,
unpleasant, but satisfying because apparently I can punch you.
Because you're dead. I can actually fight you. Character moment for Hoyt too. But then also like that, I thought there were just a lot of really nice character moments for Kelsier, who is, he is a fan favorite character, right? And between him and interacting with Chris and Nas and, pocketing Nas's knife, giving the knife back to Nas, getting it back from Nas, willingly that time. Thought that was great. I really liked his Allomancy-free heist of the orb from the Eyrie.
Well, you have to remember that
was how he did. That was all except for the last heist. That was all of them.
Yeah, all of them. He didn't. Most of the heists that he carried out were not allomantically supported.
Yeah, and I, like I said, it was, we heard all about it, but we never saw it.
Right.
And that was, I thought that was really cool.
That was really cool. Most of the stuff you mentioned, though, I was saving for Cosmere. But yeah. But
like they still happen in this book, and they have non-Cosmere. They have non-Cosmere impacts too, where it's just like, oh yeah, no, it's cool to see Kelsier develop as a character. I'm
just, as soon as Kelsier took the pin out of the sea, I'm just like picturing Nas like on some other planet, like getting out to sit down and just falling flat on his ass. And then cursing Kelsier because he'll just know that it's Kelsier. But anyway, so getting back to Kelsier and the sharp turn in the epilogue, a lot of fan theories, or a lot of fans support the theory, including you, I believe, that Kelsier is not the same Kelsier that we knew. There are many points at which this change could have occurred, or occurred multiple times. It could have been, the difference between, the Kelsier who was alive, the Kelsier who showed up in the cognitive realm, the Kelsier who ascended, the Kelsier who deascended, the Kelsier who was quote unquote destroyed or torn apart by ruin, but then somehow still survived. There was a lot of hand waving going on at that moment.
I don't know. My opinions on this one gotta wait for the next episode though.
Okay, but
because it deals a lot with, and you hear Nas use the term cognitive shadow in this book. It has to do with, my opinions on this have to do with the nature of cognitive shadows.
Yes, but it is also strange to me that we had a chapter ending and Ruin was so upset that Kelsier
keep hitting the microphone.
I'm sorry. Kelsier was so upset that, or no,
he punched the microphone.
No.
Oh no, that Ruin was so upset he tore apart Kelsier.
Yes.
Well, he stopped partway through, allegedly.
No, the chapter ended with Kelsier saying, "And Ruin tore me apart."
But and then the next chapter starts with,
"I'm still alive."
Yeah. Which
is weird. It's very hand wavy.
Sadly, yes, but I lived. That means anyway. Yeah, but I mean, so to me,
it is. I'm not okay with not knowing more.
See that? So to me, preservation dying tells Kelsier, the hearts of men are not your toys. And then in all caps, he says, survive, right? And I want to make an anime reference, but you're not going to get
it.
What? No.
How many episodes of Death Till Death Do Us Blart do you have to listen to not get the Foot Locker reference?
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry. I literally didn't understand what you said. No, it says in all caps, survive. Yes, all right, it's not Foot Locker, but still. And it reminds me.
Not?
No. Till Death Do Us Blart is survive. Anyway, whatever. God. Also reminds me a lot of in the anime code Geass, the main character, I don't want to say protagonist or hero because he's neither of those. The main character, Lelouch, tells his frenemy Suzaku that he needs to survive, and because of magic powers, he has to obey that command. And that becomes a curse upon Suzaku the rest of the show, that he has to survive.
I think Kelsier felt it. Well,
no.
Kelsier doesn't see it as a curse. Kaladin has those thoughts.
Yeah,
but anyways.
That's a next episode discussion. But it, and it, Kelsier as the survivor being told by God, given a command from God to survive. It's very, I don't know, it's poignant. It works for me. And so then Kelsier surviving by the skin of his teeth. But I think there is going back to your point about, is it the same Kelsier? Or, is it the same Vin at the beginning of the Final Empire as at the end of Well of Ascension, at the end of Hero of Ages? People are changed by their experiences,
yes,
right?
Right.
So I don't know, man. It's very on brand though. It's very on brand. The survivor's got to survive.
Yes. We're gonna be all over the place today.
I was about to say we're all over the place already. Go on ahead.
Since we were somewhat recently talking about the epilogue, I do want to make note that I am very proud of Spook for wanting to be his own man, separate from Kelsier, because he has that kind of internal thought.
Yeah, I
forget what he says, but
I should really start recording these with my Kindle in front of me. But then I'd have too many electronics.
Yes. But he has an internal thought about I thought I got rid of Kelsier. I just stepped out of Kelsier's shadow. What? And Kelsier's coming back now because all throughout Hero of Ages he was kind of dealing with Kelsier and inferiority complex with Kelsier and trying to live up to Kelsier's reputation.
The survivor of the flames as opposed to the survivor of
right. So
Spook
having that thought of just no, I'm my own person now. Why is Kelsier coming back and messing that up?
Well, I thought it was more he thought Ruin was coming back because he only saw Kelsier then after putting in a spike. And then Kelsier calms Spook's fears by saying, No, I'm not Ruin. He is dead.
Yeah, but I don't.
It's the real me this time. And then Spook seems more, appeased by that. Whether he should be or shouldn't.
Still, I mean, I don't think he thought that it was Ruin coming back. I think it was still. I don't.
Let's check out the dialogue again offline. I think because he definitely at first thought it was Ruin. They killed you, but then anyway.
This is definitely one of those cases where your brother-in-law is going to text us and say AJ's right.
Maybe. Or, anyway, whatever. I'm right. That's fine.
Okay, getting back to Kelsier.
Back to Kelsier. Because isn't that what it all always boils
So,
down to?
like you said, this whole secret history is like a character study for Kelsier. So I think we see a lot of things that are just going to drive Kelsier for a long time. And one of those things is it dawning on
Getting
Kelsier.
his ass beat. Oh, sorry.
It dawning on Kelsier that he was doing, like, none of his actions were really his own.
He was a pawn.
He was a pawn by not only ruin, but also preservation and the drifter and and whatnot. So I think that really got under Kelsier's skin.
God, I want to talk about other books now, and not right. That's for the next episode. But you're right. You're on something.
I think this is going to change how Kelsier thinks about things, how he plans for things. I don't know if that's going to make him more or less hesitant to kill people.
Could he be less hesitant to kill people? Because his whole, he was very flippant about killing people in the Final Empire.
So yes, he could. Theoretically, he could be
even more bloodthirsty.
No.
Yeah.
Well, he could be more hesitant. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I'm just like, he couldn't go the other way though. He couldn't. I was like,
and this point got reinforced over and over again, kind of as things were dawning on Kelsier. Again, we see it with Kelsier remembering back to Gemmel.
Yeah.
The person who taught him allomancy, realizing that person had been touched by ruin. I also think that the reason why Kelsier wanted to stick around and not go into the beyond is because he doesn't want to face Mare.
You think he doesn't want to face Mare?
Nope. I think he was looking for any and every excuse to try to redeem himself before he goes and meets Mare.
Redeem himself from what? From thinking that she betrayed him?
That, and then fucking up the entire world.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure he thinks that that's not his fault. I don't see him.
There's a comment and there's a line in the book that says, if there's anything, Kelsey, anything that I'm good at, it's lying to myself.
Maybe you're right. I don't know. I look at him. I look at that as a way to avoid any sort of feelings of shame. Right? He might feel guilty about certain things, but I don't think he feels shame. I don't feel like I don't think that's not something I associate with Kelsier at all.
I don't think that I think the reason why he doesn't want to go back is because he doesn't want to face Mare. I think he wants to do more to quote unquote fix things.
I don't. I thought it was more literal fear of death. Being the emblem of survivor, right? Mm-hmm. Or the that basically the avatar of life, right? I just think he's afraid of death.
Okay.
Both can be true. I'd say both can be true.
Both could be true.
I think we already talked about this. I love seeing Kelsier punching anybody who could be a god, could be perceived as a god. I like seeing, Ati uses the same flawed reasoning on Kelsier as he does on Vin in Hero of Ages, where at one point he's trying to divert Kelsier away from going to see the Ivory. Mm-hmm. And he explains, there's a line he uses where he says, life was just a gift that I gave. And then he's basically saying he's going to take it back. And I'm like, wait a minute. You don't have the right to just take back gifts after you've already given them. It's a gift. It's not yours anymore. Right? And that's, for that same reason, it's the same flawed reasoning that didn't work on Vin, doesn't work on Kelsier either.
Kelsier's also a con artist, so he can kind of see through.
Yeah, whatever. Either way, I liked seeing that it was the same. Adi was still the same character, right? And that was nice. There's something else I don't know, man.
Another thing that I think has not been explored, which I think will be explored in the future, is that Kelsier saw into the future.
Yes.
Both as before he ascended, and I think he could see into the future while he was ascended.
Yeah.
And I feel like we barely got to dig into that thread in Secret History. Yeah. And I think that is a lot of a motivation for what Kelsier is doing in the Cosmere post Secret History.
But that's for the next episode.
It is. But there's more.
Am I being subtle enough with the winking?
No. You got to do it with your whole body, not just your head. Okay. Thank you. Another little tidbit is the knife that you mentioned that Nas gave.
Don't thank me. Thank the knife. What about it?
He lost it, supposedly.
Yeah.
I feel like that knife has more significance than just to get lost.
I got nothing.
So I'm looking forward to that knife reappearing again.
See, I was more interested in, so when Kelsey is crossing the ocean, he sees the soul of a fish bigger than a building. I don't know how big whales are in real life relative to buildings, but I was wondering if that's like something we'll see revisited as either a whale or some kind of Leviathan sea monster. I don't know. I think that's, interesting for future though.
You think we'll get into that?
No, maybe. I don't know. It's just cool.
I thought Brandon probably just included that to re-emphasize the point that all souls are the same size in the cognitive realm. And you got to think of Kelsey's perspective where the buildings are not that big.
That's fair. All right.
But I'm out of notes because everything else is in the next episode.
Everything I've got is intertwined with, Cosmere, the Cosmere implications of things. So that's all I got too. So thank you for podcasting with me. I don't know if we're ever going to publish the video, listener, but maybe if you're watching this, maybe we already have. I don't know.
Or it went horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple toddler interruptions and dog interruptions. Anyway, if you have any questions, feedback, comments, our email is cosmerecasual@gmail.com. Our Reddit is u/cosmerecasual. We might or might not have an Instagram by the time this goes up. I don't know. Check out the socials, Cosmere Casual, whatever. Our intro and outro music is by the artist Ketza. The song is Odyssey, and it is licensed through Tribe of Noise.
And until next time, keep your wits about you.